This is Toros Cafeteros, and today I want to talk about the Copa Libertadores Final that happened on November 4th between Boca Juniors and Fluminense. You have an Argentinian side and a Brazilian side. The game in Maracanã in Rio de Janeiro, a home game for Fluminense. CONMEBOL decided on the stadium to be host of the final prior to the tournament, so no intention here for Fluminense to have a home game. But it happened so to be. So you had 100,000 Boca Juniors fans that came from Argentina to Rio to celebrate their team, not all of them with tickets. Just a quick look at both teams' prior success in this tournament. Boca Juniors have won 6 Copa Libertadores titles in their history, the last one in 2007, so it's been a while. Fluminense has never won the Copa Libertadores. They have been to the final once in 2008. Boca Juniors with their 12th time in this final. The first since their most recent loss in 2018 against their big city rival River Plate. So this game, as mentioned, in Maracanã, the same stadium in which Germany became world champion back in 2014 when they beat Argentina, just as a reference to our European viewers. So how did each team get here? Boca Juniors, they qualified by winning the league, the Argentinian league in 2022. The first 5 teams are directly qualified, with the 6th team going through qualification. Either way, Boca Juniors were in by winning the league in 2022. In their group stage, they made it through. In the knockout round, they actually did not win a single game in normal regular time or extra time. They had to go through penalties in all instances. So in the semifinal, they beat Palmeiras to gain access to the final here. And for Fluminense, they finished 3rd in Brazil's 2022 League Serie A. The first 6 qualify for the Copa Libertadores directly. And in their group, they also made it out, obviously. In the semifinal, they won against Internacional and made it to the first final since 2008. Again, they have never won this tournament. So it would end up, I guess all of you already know the results. So if you don't, Fluminense ended up winning. But the bigger question here is, why do I put such a focus on this game in my channel? Isn't this about Colombia? Yes, it is, but there were a few Colombian players in this match. On Fluminense's side, you have Jhon Arias, the 26-year-old Colombian midfielder, plays for Fluminense. He's a current starter for Colombian. And on the other side, Boca Juniors has Frank Fabra in defense, the 32-year-old Colombian, a starter for Boca Juniors. He's an occasional starter for Colombia. For example, the last game he started was against Uruguay just 2 match days ago in the CONMEBOL World Cup qualification phase. But let's talk about the style of play here. Fluminense and Boca Juniors couldn't be further apart with regards to their philosophy. Fluminense under Fernando Diniz definitely revolutionizing the style of play in Latin America, or trying to, at least in Brazil, with the relationism play style, which I put some links in the description of this video for you to better understand it here. I can't completely explain what this play style is. That would go into way too much depth. That would be beyond this video. But what you have to know is that the emphasis in the style of play is on ball possession, ball control, accurate passes and dribblings. Defenders are not afraid to go and enter a duel, a dribbling, even in their own half, even close to the goal. They always try to solve the situation by passing, by dribbling, never punting the ball to the front, no long balls. And their players are not really tied to a position. So you have a bulk of players that always form a circle or lines, triangles, creating advantages in numbers in every position of the game, in every attack, in every situation, to have more people than the opponent around the ball, which sometimes can be a bit boring when you realized that it won't lead to a quick success, so there are no deep vertical passes into the forwards, but what you can get is very interesting and delightful trick play that will slowly move this bulk of players across the field, and you have the right set of skillful players, then this will lead eventually to success. On the other side, you have Boca Juniors, a more successful club, a bigger club with crazy fans. Not to say that Fluminense's fans aren't amazing, but you have scenes like this in their home stadium and 100,000 fans that have traveled to Rio that are just excited. You see the passion on both sides. And Boca, obviously, so much more successful. They have won the Argentinian league 35 times, only 2 times less than city rival River. They have won the Copa Libertadores 6 times. And under coach Jorge Almiron, they play a traditional 4-3-3 in most games. They don't have much possession. They tried to counter to have pass accuracy and go vertical, especially with their forwards, with their 3 attackers. You have Cavani up front, who isn't the fastest anymore, but certainly with the right experience for this kind of game. During their season, they had problems finding the goals. So it's not that they didn't create chances, but they were underperforming with regards to their expected goals. Taking too many shots, scoring only on every 10th shot that they took. But let's dive into the game. Looking at the starting 11 here on both sides, again, what I mentioned, we are going to have a focus on Frank Fabra on the Boca Juniors side in defense, and obviously Jhon Arias for Fluminense. Jhon Arias with 12 games, 11 in which he started in this year's Copa Libertadores edition, played an average of 84 minutes per game, and made it 3 times into the team of the week. On the other side, Frank Fabra, you have him playing 10 matches in which all he started, 87 minutes on average per game. He stuck more to his position. Again, Boca Juniors more position-based oriented, so he stayed on the left, made some runs to the front. He made it once in this season to the team of the week in this season's Copa Libertadores. Some other players maybe to point out, Fluminense, Cano definitely had a big impact, especially when you see where on the field, or where on the pitch he's showed up, not only during the Copa Libertadores season, but during the Brazilian League season. If you look at those games, in 26 games, he started 24, and he's been everywhere on this pitch. Similar, if you look at Andre, kind of to emphasize on Dinize's style of play, also him being everywhere, and that's kind of a pattern you see for most players. The defenders are a little bit more, especially center defenders, a little bit more stuck to their positions, but the outside defense, you have Marcelo, who also moves to the other side, moves up to midfield, and sometimes you find him in the box. So definitely those players aren't stuck to their positions at all. You see those stats here in the game as well, the players' average position for Boca and for Fluminense, a little bit more compressed here. On paper, it looked like we were getting a Frank Fabra versus Jhon Arias duel, as this formation would suggest. But again, as discussed, Fluminense doesn't play positional football, and therefore none of their positions make too much sense or are tied. The players aren't tied to those. Maybe just a bit, though, as the heat map of Jhon Arias suggests. He's more on the right than the left, but still he, like others, is all over the pitch. The Colombian referee, Wilma Roldan, is the referee here, and 84% possession for Fluminense in the first 14 minutes. Boca Juniors were basically watching, but Fluminense isn't getting into any dangerous areas. After 15 minutes, Fluminense had 1 header on goal, and Boca Juniors a dangerous counterattack with shot on goal. But Fluminense, definitely with slow build-up, didn't allow Boca to have the ball most of the time. Juniors with fast, low vertical passes to the forwards and sprints behind the defenders, not only when counterattacking. You have the goal for Fluminense in the 36th minute. It's a give and go between Keno and Jhon Arias over the right side. A precise pass to Kano, who's wide open in the box. Assist for Keno. Goal for Kano. 1-0 for Fluminense. After the goal, Boca Juniors tried to get right back, but after Fluminense regained the ball again, it was back to the same style of play as before. That continued until halftime. Fluminense up 1-0 at halftime. 68% possession for Fluminense in the first half. 5-1 shots, 2-1 of which on target. At halftime, Boca Juniors players seemingly were told to keep the ball more on their side. So the second half started with Boca Juniors having more possession. 63% in the first 15 minutes of the second half. And that worked better. Boca Juniors were able to get into the game and their possession more position-based. Advíncula on right pulls towards center and hammers it in from distance. 18 meters, goal for Boca Juniors in the 72nd minute. 1-1. Cavani was substituted out shortly after, Marcelo as well, both exhausted and seemingly injured. In the final 10 minutes, then none of the teams wanted to risk too much, and so the game went into overtime. In the first half of overtime, Boca Juniors controlled the ball so much, so you could think they just tried to keep it away from Fluminense because they didn't create many chances with it either. Then in the 99th minute, things get confusing and out of hand for a few minutes. Kennedy hammered the ball into the net. Fluminense up. Celebrate a little bit too much though. Fluminense celebrated like they won the game already. VAR, meanwhile, checking for offside. No offside. The goal counts, but Kennedy, who already saw a yellow card earlier, received another yellow card for celebrating in the stands and therefore red for his celebration after the goal. Fluminense up 2-1 but with only 10 men. Kennedy substituted in the 80th minute, saw his first yellow in the 88th minute, then scored a goal and saw the second yellow in the 99th minute. He definitely drew some attention there. The game got even more heated after. Fabra saw red for slapping Nino, who also sold it until VAR had the referee review it. So 10 against 10 in the second half of extra time. Boca Juniors now had to throw in everything they had and they were pushing hard. Boca Juniors with 75% possession at this point. Fluminense had a chance to close things off in a counterattack that was started by Jhon Arias, but then Fluminense only hit the post. In the end, the late efforts by Boca Juniors weren't enough. Fluminense under Diniz win their first ever Copa Libertadores title. I'm happy for Marcelo, Jhon Arias and the rest of the team. What a great effort and reward for following a different style of play. Let's look at the stats of this game for just a second before looking at the celebrations. Both teams were evenly matched on average. Possession, shots and chances are fairly even. So you have to look deeper into what happened when. Fluminense with a great first half, Boca Juniors with a better second half and overtime. Each team with a red card and a shot from distance that went in. In my opinion, it came down to the 1-0 and mental breakdown in defense for Boca Juniors in this situation. Even if Cano hadn't been there, Marcelo would have made the goal anyways, absolutely wide open. And so in sum, a deserved win for Fluminense. And it's always something special to win a trophy in your home stadium. For the players, coaches and fans, Rio de Janeiro saw some partying that night.
Bora, Fluminense!
You had a great game by Jhon Arias. Unfortunately, Frank Fabra saw a red card, but he still made a decent enough game. I don't think he'll start against Brazil in his upcoming World Cup qualifying match, though. Jhon Arias, I'm certain, will, hopefully in that old known formation with Luis Diaz on one side, and then either him over right, or if Cuadrado is back, him more central. But that's a discussion and a focus for another time when round 5 and 6 of the World Cup qualifiers are being played. It'll be definitely interesting to see Jhon Arias face against his coach. when Brazil visits Colombia. Diniz, as you know, coach for Brazil, and Jhon Arias, as I said earlier, most likely a starter against Brazil. So we'll see what answer Diniz finds for Jhon Arias and the Colombian team, but I'll have a separate focus on that game. And then the second game that Colombia will play in Paraguay next week. But with that, I want to say thank you all for watching. This was Todos Cafeteros. Until next time.